Hi, Laurel here, Minnesota Zone 5A, doing it's the last day of April, garden tour. I was just gone for a week and a half, flew back 2 days ago, and the 2 days that I've been home, it has just rained, so I have not been able to do a single thing out in the garden. There's a lot to do. Tons of things popped up while I was gone, though. Yesterday was the last 2 days. It barely even hit 50 and was just cold and rainy. Today it's like 70, although rain's coming in again. So trying to get this garden tour in. We do have the Virginia. I think this one is called Winter Glow, I want to say. That bloom opened up on this one. And I see another little bloom budding down here. And luckily these that I was worried about that got trampled in the tree removal are all sprouting back. So same thing with this heuchera, the hardy geranium. Those are Bovoico? I don't remember what the name of those are, but they have little pink flowers, petite pink flowers. And good news, the hellebore is sprouting. There are new leaves coming up. So everything made it out. Very pleased to see that, so I don't have to buy a new one of those. We've got the Forever Purple heuchera coming up. There's a dicentra. I see a bloom on that. That's a little hosta called Wee down there, and lots of people doing yard work everywhere. The pulmonaria is sprouting. This one is Trevi Fountain, so it has these kind of periwinkle, cobalt, and pink blooms on it. Really beautiful. This one is probably about 4 years old now, so it's established. It also got trampled, but I leave all of its foliage in the wintertime, so it was pretty protected. I think it had that cushion. There are lots of blooms coming up yet as well. And all of the daffodils opened up. I do not know any of the varieties of daffodil that I have planted. Most of them were from sort of random mixes that I bought on clearance. Let's see, let's head to the other side of the yard since one of my backyard neighbors is mowing. And maybe we'll work our way back this way. I don't know how long he'll take, but anyway. The Vago garden bed's looking good. Same thing with the garlic over here, getting nice and big and sturdy. Plenty of space to plant. I've got lettuce that I think I'm probably today going to pop over on this side. And I may do beans on this end. I do bush beans rather than pole beans. Strawberries coming back. They're always really tough. This variety is Seascape. And I do eventually want to get a couple berry beds. So like a circular bed here, maybe back there from Vago Garden as well, just to do strawberries. This is an Angelina sedum. Oops, there's a plant tag from last year. Angelina sedum that planted itself here. I dug up about half of it last year and brought it to my friends, and it just spreads easily, but it's very easy to dig up. We've got the 3 drops of Jupiter ornamental oregano. You can see how easily they spread. I think I want them to spread a little bit. These 2, this one and that one, I just planted last summer. And then this one was the summer before last. So I may come and control a little bit some of these, the stems. It's like wherever they touch the ground, they root in. So I might pull up some of those just so they don't get too out of hand. Boy, there's noise here. It's breezy today, and there's a plane flying over and the lawnmower. Sorry if the sound quality isn't the best. I live by a regional airport, so it's like the annoying small little planes that fly low and are super loud, always over my neighborhood, and helicopters too in St. Paul. We've got echinacea coming up. These were clearance because they were mislabeled. I think they might be Kismet Red. They were labeled as like Powwow Pink or something years ago. But they self-seed. So all of these little babies, these are all self-seeded echinacea. And I just this one too self-seeded a couple years ago. When they self-seed, they come up pink, like hot pink instead of red, so they probably crossbreed with another echinacea. I do have some white ones that I'm guessing they're crossing with. We've got Brunnera. I think this one is called Alexander. Blooms, it has really pretty blue blooms popping up here. Hydrangeas are sprouting. These are firelight hydrangeas, and I did trim these before I went on vacations. They were good to go. This is another variety. It just was labeled variegated Brunnera, but you can see the pretty blue flowers. Kind of like forget-me-not. I forget if these might be also referred to as false forget-me-not because of the little blue blooms. We've got the viburnum. I have one of all that glitters and one of all that glows over in this garden bed. I do not remember which is which, but they are pollinators for each other. You have to have one of each. And I know they're proven winners varieties. I know that they can't pollinate with another, I think blueberry muffin is the other one that they can't pollinate with because they bloom at very different times. I've got 3 Astilbe here coming up. I did fertilize those earlier in April, and then I forgot that I had planted. This was a little clearance lungwort that I rescued. I've got 3 Plum Cascade Heucherella. These are like trailing heucherellas. They're all popping up. I didn't have a chance to clean up any of the foliage from my heucherellas, and I don't know if I will. So I'm hoping they just kind of sprout and grow and cover the dead foliage. Another variety of Brunnera, I want to say this is like Jack Frost with those pretty blue, sort of forget-me-not looking blooms on it. I'm having trouble with my camera focusing too. Well, it's just my phone. So let's see how this turns out. Hopefully it all looks okay. I did fiddle with the settings a little bit. This is another lungwort or pulmonaria called Raspberry Splash. More pink blooms with sort of hints of purple. That one's maybe 3 years old or has been planted for 3 years. So it's fairly established as well. Lungwort is one of my absolute favorite plants. The leaves are just so decorative. I love the texture. It's really hardy, super drought tolerant. You can plant this in dry shade once it's established. You do need to get it established the first year or 2 in a dry spot. Make sure you pay attention to watering, but they're so tolerant. We've got a little lime hydrangea popping out here, and then we do have a clematis that I have against the fence. I left the Killian down here. There we go. Those plant tags do not last. Left that against in the ground. I have another, I think this is Alexander, no, what did I say? Jack Frost Brunnera. And these are 2 heucherella. This one looks kind of icky with the dead leaves. At this point, it's easier if you can do it early in the year and just sort of mow it down completely to the ground. At this point now, I've got to pull them out one by one. So I prefer to get to these early if I can, but sometimes you just don't have the time. There's too much to do. I've got another hosta. This is Autumn Frost popping up in here. One of the most sun tolerant and low maintenance hostas, my favorite variety. And then some other plants that I got on clearance. There's a Jacob's Ladder there. I don't recall the variety, but it's that pretty purple variegation in it. This was a clearance. I want to say it's one of the wedding series. Hellebore. That pretty deep purple bloom. They're all kind of facing backwards, though, like facing the back of the garden. But, well, I just planted that in the fall, so it's nice to see blooms. Another Brunnera, I believe that one is also Alexander with more of the silver leaves. And then this hosta is called Designer Jeans. I transplanted that because it kept burning in the sun. Everywhere I put it over here, it got too much sun, so I'm hoping it'll get more shade, especially being under this viburnum. I do have a lady fern coming up. Those are always a little bit slower, but you can kind of see the fiddlehead starting here. And then 2 more astilbe. Those are white blooming. I didn't get to clean up the bloom heads on those yet, but I did fertilize them. And those were clearance, so I have no clue what they were. They were not labeled properly. We've got, this is Sun King Aurelia coming up over here. Bright chartreuse, gets big shrub sized. Another becoming one of my favorite plants. And I've got 3 more astilbe back here. This area, when we actually get normal rainfall, stays really moist. A lot of the astilbe that I had in other areas of the garden just couldn't withstand the drought that we've had the last few years. So I've moved them, planted more drought-tolerant things like lungwort, hellebore, hostas, and I've moved the astilbe. So we'll see how they do over here. I've got 3 Siberian irises. Again, these were marked the wrong thing. They were marked Caesar's brother, which is a purple iris, but they bloom light yellow. I think it's called butter and sugar or something like that. Sort of a light buttery yellow iris. They're really pretty. Another clematis popping up here. This one I don't have the tag for. Planted it a few years ago. Clematis do like to get more sun. They do need sun to do well. I'm hoping eventually these will bulk up because they do get some sun, but they are in mostly shade over here. So they've taken a bit of time to get established. I've got the limelight hydrangea. I don't know, at least in my climate, there's a saying that clematis likes to have cool feet, be full sun, but then have cool feet, meaning have its roots be shaded. Maybe that's true. I feel like that's probably the case for most plants. They don't really want a lot of beating hot sun or heat on their roots. But being in a northern climate, I don't know that really matters. I think they just want more sun, period. Because, of course, the northern sun is a lot less harsh. This is the sage leaf willow, and it looks like half the plant is budding out. This whole half, I see no signs of life at all. This one really struggled with drought the last few years. Willows are very thirsty, and we had 3 years of extreme drought. So I don't know if I'll keep this here. We'll see. 3 more heuchera. These 2 are berry smoothie. That one, I am not sure. It was in a planter, like a mixed arrangement that somebody gave me, and I just popped it in the ground. It wasn't labeled. It looked kind of like berry smoothie, so I got 2 more, but it's not an exact match. But close enough. I've got this sedum, little ground cover sedum here, and then these are 3 salvia. Those are proven winners back to the fuchsia salvia. They bloom beautifully in this kind of late spring, early summer. So those 3 bloom pink, along with the iris back there, blooming yellow all at the same time. It is absolutely gorgeous. And this is a Nepeta, Walker's Low. It is not small or low. It is one of the larger Nepeta. So if you purchase a Walker's Low, be aware of that. This one fills in easily this entire space and kind of crowds things out around it. And then when it splits, I cut it back after it's done blooming. I also have a yarrow. Oh, and it looks like a thistle. And some crabgrass growing back here. Great. I got to get at this. I had a lot of weeding to do. This yarrow was mislabeled. I think it was labeled with white, some kind of white yarrow, but it blooms. I think it might be either pomegranate or there's one called like strawberry or something like that, because it blooms like this sort of raspberry pink blooms, and you can see how it spreads down there. Also gets a fair amount of shade here, so it's not super fast growing or spreading. I need to plant my pea pods, hoping I can do that today. I plant those usually along this trellis. I don't know if I'll change it up at all, just right in the ground. I do plant extra peas because we've got critters. You can see the little holes they've dug. We got voles back here, like a whole vole colony. And I've gotten, here comes another helicopter this time. Or no, that's a plane. Oh yeah, it's a helicopter. Wow, they're cruising. Wait till they pass. Okay. Anyway, I plant extra peas down here because I know the voles get at them once I plant them, the pea seeds. But I still have gotten a good crop every year, so we'll see. Dandelions have come up everywhere. And more strawberries. We've got a daylily. That one's called Mighty Chestnut. Kind of an orangey bloom, like a kind of an autumnal orange. It's a very unique color. Again, got it on clearance. We've got half of the Proven Winners Daisy May Daisy came back, so that'll be fine. This is the Luminary Opalescent Phlox from Proven Winners. Absolutely love that line. If you have trouble with powdery mildew, try the Proven Winners line of phlox. I have not had any trouble this year with them at all. This is an aster. I think it's Woods Blue. Again, it was unmarked on clearance for $3. I just knew it was a purple aster, bluish purplish, so I bought it. Blooms beautifully in the fall. We've got the azalea. This is Rosy Lights azalea, budding out. That one blooms later. I do see a lot of rhododendrons around town in full bloom right now. And then I have a stargazer lily down here. I have two of them, but I accidentally stepped on this bud here, which I set it back a ways, so I'm hoping it'll send up a new shoot. And these, I gotta pull some of these up. So these are ornamental allium along with the tulips that are over here. I think I have a gladiator, either gladiator or globe master in here, and then a bunch of purple sensation allium. Purple sensation self-seed. So they're propagating themselves. I'll have a whole bunch of purple sensation allium. I just don't need this many. So I think this year I'm definitely going to have to cut the seed heads before they go to seed. I like how they look ornamentally, but it's a pain having this much self-seeding. So at least it's not wild onion. Oh gosh, and there's lily bugs. See those red insects? They chew holes. They love lilies. I forget what the insects are called, so I got a treat for those. This always comes up real late. It's a hardy hibiscus. This one is Proven Winners Holy Grail. I can cut these down now. This is last year's. It'll sprout completely new from the ground. I leave it up so that I remember where it is, and because native insects sometimes will overwinter in hollow stems like that. But those are very, very late to emerge in the spring. They're one of the last perennials to come up. And then this is I love this foliage. This is a coreopsis called Zagreb, I think. Again, it was unlabeled, but it looks exactly like one of the fernleaf coreopsis. I think it was Zagreb. Blooms bright yellow. This was one that doesn't. It is spreading, but very slowly. This has been here maybe 4 or 5 years. So these are drumstick allium. I haven't experienced these to self-seed, but I will still cut the bloom heads before they go to seed just in case. I do have I'm going to move this. This is a Dark Tower sedum, upright sedum, and I have 2 more over here. And I can cut sedum stems are another place where native insects overwinter. Now that it is consistently warmer out, I can cut these back. And I will move that one over to here to form a tidy little clump. I planted that when this was the front of the garden bed before I expanded all of this. I do have a Barbara Harrington clematis. This one's a few years old and it is glorious. But that one's sprouting quickly. I'm a little concerned that nothing's coming up in here yet. These are, oh no, I do see some. Okay, a few. That's a few years old. This is a Shenandoah switchgrass, as is that one. And I can see that one's coming up, but this one just barely. These do take a while to sprout. There's a weed in there too, a couple weeds, but yeah, that would be a bummer because this grass is really beautiful. It's pretty pink purple tulips opened up, and the rabbits / squirrel, well, I've seen the squirrels reach up and bite the blooms off, so I'm pleased that these survived. Perhaps we've had an early enough spring that they have other food and they don't need to bother the tulips. Or I also have seen far fewer squirrels because the 2 spruce trees are gone. And that was their route. It was like their escape route. They come down the trees and then it's a quick escape route for them in danger to run. And now they don't really have as safe of a place to run to. At least that's my guess. I have an echinacea that's self-seeded down here. There is, although that may have self-seeded. No, that's a weed. I have some kobold leotris, and then there is a milkweed in here, although last year it really struggled, and so I'm wondering, here it is, I'm wondering if it's going to come up again. It was the butterfly weed, like the orange blooming milkweed variety. I have 2 other echinacea. I forget what they're called. I bought them a few years ago, and I have not been able to find them since. Because one of them died where this sundial thing is. That was a third of these echinacea, but it got aster yellows, so I had to take that out. I put the sundial here instead. But they have self-seeded. There's one that I just showed you, and then there's another self-seeded one next to this other dark tower sedum. I've got another little lime hydrangea budding up here. And then you can see these are snapdragons. So all of these snapdragons are resprouting. They sprout from the roots in several areas of my garden, although they're far from hardy in zone 5. But I have a little warm microclimate, I think, here behind the garage. You can see more blooms coming up. These are more purple sensation allium, and all of their self-seeding. So I will be cutting all of the allium before they go to seed. Excuse me. We have 3 South Seas daylilies. I am less offended by their foliage compared to other daylilies. I do not like daylily foliage. I think there's much more attractive, like iris foliage is much more attractive if you're looking for that texture. But I love the blooms on these. They're very tall, very bright, almost neon, kind of coral. Beautiful. This is an Anna's Magic Ball Arbovita. This one stays very petite, kind of turns bronze in the winter, and then it gets a chartreuse color in the summer, but it only gets maybe about 2 feet by 2 feet. This is a yarrow, Noblessa yarrow. It's the one that looks like it's kind of like Peter Cottontail, where it has the little white puffball blooms, almost like baby's breath looking, and it has spread. So I need to dig some of that out. But that just blooms all summer. It comes up really fast, starts blooming early in the summer, and just doesn't stop blooming until it gets killed off by a hard frost. So that one's amazing. Again, I got that on clearance. And I do have, this is how tall it gets. I have this up here from last year, but I did get like a whole plant surround for this year, so I need to get that in. Some more sedum. This is another of that ground cover sedum. And then I have a Proven Winners lemon coral sedum here. Just planted that in the fall. We've got the shrub rose. This is a peach drift rose that got it was much bigger than this last summer. Got completely eaten back by rabbits. I didn't anticipate that. It wasn't on my radar because normally a shrub this sized, even a foot tall shrub, is covered by snow for most of the winter. And this year we just didn't get any snow. It's very rare that we do not have any snow cover in the winter. But now I know I will plan to put a cage around it this year, protect it from the rabbits. Although now I don't really have to prune it. I can see some little dead ends that I can prune off, but I don't have to do much. I've got a couple foxgloves. Those are Dalmatian peach that I started from seed last year. Hopefully they will bloom this year. Here's another helicopter. Man, some days are so busy. This is I have to look up the variety. It was a newer variety of Veronica that is supposed to be very mildew resistant. I bought one on clearance just to try. I'll get more this year if it does well. These are 3 Veronica here called Giles Van Hees, and those get horrible, horrible mildew. They keep kicking, so I might move them, but because they just bloom all summer, but then the foliage looks terrible. I did have 2, one there and one there. Some echinacea that I bought on clearance late in the fall, planted. Echinacea is always a little bit later to emerge as well. These are 3 Solidago dwarf goldenrods coming up. They tend to flop, so I did get ring cages to put around all 3 of them. And then this is another Oriental lily, really a fragrant variety here. It's like it's almost like a dwarf stargazer. It's oh god, those beetles! Look how they've gotten after it. Those little red beetles, they're eating the leaves like crazy. It's called After 8, and it only gets a couple feet tall compared to the stargazers, which are huge. The daffodils that were blooming before I left on vacation are now completely blown out, so I'll deadhead those. I do plan to make some changes in this garden here pretty soon, once I can get my hands on a couple of plants. This is the opening act phlox. I think it's pink, I can't remember now. I got a few of them on clearance from Home Depot in the fall. Planted them up. I'm pretty sure it was pink. I have the white one up front. But I guess we'll see. Maybe I'll just leave it as a surprise till it blooms. I planted 4 Cat's Pajamas Nepeta, also on clearance. This is a Tor Birchleaf Spirea. This got fungal. It's very prone to fungal infection, and it will get spotted leaves and defoliate. I moved it so that summer was the first summer it was out here, a lot less crowded compared to where it was, kind of up against the back of the garage. And it also has a lot more space around it, or a lot more appropriate space for how big it gets, rather. And so it did a lot better last year. It got a little bit of the fungal spots on its leaves, but it didn't defoliate. It's really pretty kind of blue-green foliage and round petal or leaves. So just, you can see it's full of blooms. It's going to bloom a lot. Last year it didn't bloom because I pruned it, and I believe most Spirea, or at least this one, blooms on old wood. So I pruned off all the buds that it had formed the previous year, but it needed it to be size controlled and to control the fungal infection. So I'm excited to see that. And that stays fairly small. It maybe gets 3 feet tall and wide. We've got a Limelight Prime Hydrangea. This is now its 2nd year in the ground. I do need to move this out a little bit. It is far too close, because this will get maybe 6 feet tall and wide at maturity. So I did leave this space open here so that I can bump it out a few feet from where it is. That's why I didn't plant anything in that area. That should give it enough space. I might have to move this again, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Coreopsis foliage here. This is what, not Coreopsis, Croton, no. Yeah, no. Oh, for crying out loud. What are these called? Crocuses. Crocuses. They're one of the first bulbs to bloom in the spring, even with snow, even with cold. They still do well. And this is why I like these compared to like tulips or something. Tulip foliage is so ugly when you have to let it age out. It is so ugly. And this is just this little patchy grass. You don't even have to trim it. It just kind of withers and dies back on its own. We also have these Glory of the Snow. Few blooms left. They've got little seed heads forming. Same thing back here. These are the little petite daffodils that have opened up. Very cute. I do have this one fritillaria out of the however many bulbs I planted, but those are pretty cool. Kind of past their prime now, but they have that like snakeskin texture, this particular variety. And then I do have the native tulips. I can see those starting to come up. You can see a little bud down there. A few more buds back here. Those are bright yellow, like native species tulips. I prefer those to like the Dutch tulips, because the foliage just stays really petite and small. I just don't like big ugly foliage everywhere. And then this is a chokeberry that I just planted last year, spreading out. I don't know. It again blooms on old wood, so if you prune it, just beware that you're pruning off the blooms for next year, unless you prune it right after it blooms. And then it will set all summer, spend all summer setting its buds for next year. So you can prune it to size control. However, those are really tough shrubs native to a lot of the US as well. So I'm excited to see that the blooms turn into like dark black berries, which is really cool. These are heucherella. This dead foliage looks terrible. I just, again, only have time to get to so much in the spring. I probably will come and cut that back though, but these are really tough. Heucherella I found are much more tough than heuchera for me. Those are called, I think it's, there's iced tea and peach tea, and I can never keep them straight. I'm pretty sure these are iced tea. And we've got another daffodil that bloomed out, and then this is a hosta, which I believe in this space, I'm going to move this hosta over here, and then I plan to plant an upright blue juniper, like Troutman or Skyrocket or something in this space that gets really tall and stays super skinny. So run over here to this garden. There is another plane. That one's looks like a commercial plane though, flying from the main airport in Minneapolis. So this, I forgot to look up the name of this. This is the purple geranium from Proven Winners. It gets very large, so I just planted one here. I did look in my records. That is a different kind of coreopsis clearance one that I planted in the fall. I've got 3 other daylilies. These stay fairly small. I think these are called Joey Winnie. Is that it? I don't recall. They have really peach, kind of roughly peachy coral blooms, very fragrant, but they stay very small, and I hate the foliage. So I'm looking to pull up some of this ajuga. This is chocolate chip ajuga, full, beautiful when it blooms. These blue blooms, full of buds right now. But I want to plant something a little bit tall, probably pull up a chunk of it in the middle, plant something tall that can shield the daylily foliage later in the season. I have a helenium planted here, some weeds over there. That looks like a self-seeded echinacea. I did have some snapdragons in here. Sometimes they sprout. Sometimes it doesn't look like they're going to sprout this year, but that's okay because I have a whole tray of snapdragons. We've got a hosta over here, beautiful blue hosta. Don't know what variety it was. It wasn't marked. It was in the clearance section, but it was just, wow, look how big that one is. Holy smokes. So I'm hoping the loss of those 2 spruce trees doesn't affect the shade too much over here. Man, that's a big chunk. I didn't get to pull up the hosta, the old bloom stocks from last year. So really, you can cut them, but you know, after the winter, they've kind of deteriorated or disintegrated enough that you can also just pull them up with your bare hands. So we'll just do that right now, and then I can come collect them later. There we go. Done and done. 3 more heucherella. I believe these are the same as the other ones that I just showed. I believe they are the peach tea. No, iced tea. I think, because those I think are more brownish with more, what should we call it? More defined leaves. We've got a patch of echinacea. These were, I think they might be swan white or kismet white. They were labeled as yellow, but they came up white. They were on clearance, and they self-seed all over, so I just kind of let them go. We have a columbine coming back. I don't know what color that one is. It was on clearance. And we've got a little bit of my pad. I had a lot more tulips here in the past. There used to be yellow ones as well. But now we've got these red and they kind of age to orange. Dutch tulips. These are pretty tough plants. We've got a ligularia back there, a little rocket. This patch of daffodils all bloomed. Very pretty double flowers with the cream color with the light yellow in the middle. These viburnum are blooming as well. These are the Bailey's cranberry viburnum. I had a third one in this group, but it got canker and died, sadly, so I removed that. But I do plan to plant an evergreen in its place. And then we have strawberry daiquiri dogwood coming up. And back there, right now you can just see the weeds that have planted themselves, but there is a north wind switchgrass, kind of a blue switchgrass. Gets really tall, doesn't get a lot of sun, so I put this frame up, or doesn't get enough sun, so it flops. There is no getting those weeds out of there. That root ball is so thick, so I just let it go. They don't do well anyways. I'll just make sure they won't flower. I thought I planted a hosta somewhere over here. Oh yeah, right there. There we go. Another hosta coming up. I don't remember what kind that was. It was a cool one. Stained glass, maybe? A little bit more sun tolerant, since this bed does get a little bit more sun. We have this is just the green Aconocloa grass. Wow, it even has shoots coming out over here. So that has very slowly spread itself around this little patch. I have two more autumn frost hosta. They do stay pretty small. They're more petite hostas. I'm waiting for a couple of these to get bigger so I can start splitting it. Then I do have a mystery green hosta where that white tag is. That was a clearance plant. Planted long before this shrub got this huge. And then we're kind of back to the beginning with that Virginia and the beautiful pulmonaria. More things sprouting over here. We've got another couple heucherellas. These might be the peach tea. Where like the lobes on the leaves aren't as sharp. They're a little more roughly looking. I covered that one because it got trampled, but it is sprouting. And I forgot I have yellow. This was a mix, yellow and the white. This, you can see, is the classic white bleeding heart. Putting on its beautiful blooms. Those are some tough plants. And then I have two hostas. This is the blue drinking gourd hosta there. And this one, I completely forgot I had planted this till I looked back at some of my photos. This one is called Striptease. And that was newly planted in the fall, so I'm excited to see that one come up. Just pulling some grass weeds. Another heucherella. This one I thought was dead. I transplanted it to save it from getting... It was right under those spruce trees, so I transplanted it before they came and cut them down, but it is sprouting. So some part of its roots were alive. I've got another... why do I keep forgetting? Sun King Aurelia planted here that I just planted in the fall. This is the space where I plan to put a tall, narrow evergreen, such as an arborvitae or a yew. And then I have this I also rescued from under the trees. This is a type of just had it. I'll think of it later. Native plant. This yew got a little bit beat up. This is a Nova yew. And a lot of the debris from the trees came down. You can see where it kind of stripped all the needles off the front of these branches. And then this one looks a little beat up. Yews take very well to pruning, so I will probably just prune some of these bare branches back. Should be fine. And then this is strawberries and cream ribbon grass that I threw in back here. I don't mind if the back of this area. I do plan to mulch over all of this grass and kind of dot evergreens, so there's a little bit of a walking path through here and maybe a bit of a privacy screen. But I don't mind if this ribbon grass kind of takes over. I know it is prone to. This corner where this native elderberry has seeded itself, you can see it is blooming. And then over here I've got wild violets. There are native species of wild violets and there are non-native. They typically spread themselves by seed. I think these little patches are cute, so I let them go, and if they get somewhere I don't want, I just pull them up. And then this grass I have yet to see come up. I'm not sure. Planted it very late in the fall, so we'll see what happens with that. That is the Proven Winners Cheyenne Sky. You can see the pile of wood chips and soil where they ground out the stump from that tree. And then the Pachysandra got a little bit beat up, and it just kind of had its blooms. It gets these little white blooms all over, mostly just evergreen, and a giant dandelion. Look at this thing. I'm going to have to dig that out. But everything did pretty well despite the stress of the trees coming down. I've got some lamium there, some creeping jenny, this poor little Pachysandra. There's another lungwort. I cannot remember the name of this variety, but it has these pretty like little sky blue flowers. And this one, the leaves stay pretty silver all summer. I just planted that last year. There are a few hostas in here, and I do see them starting to come up. A lot of them I don't remember the variety. Some of them they didn't have tags, so I'm not sure what they are. I also have burdock and then creeping bellflower that I have been battling for a number of years in this garden. The only thing that works for me on the creeping bellflower is Roundup. I tried digging it out for several years. They have rhizomes that go down 12, 18 inches. So especially in an area with lots of tree roots, you can't excavate 18 inches down. And if there's any tiny little piece of rhizome, they will keep coming back. So I reduced them, but the only thing that really worked is treating with Roundup. So I'm just very, very careful. That's the only thing I use Roundup on about once or twice a summer. You know, I wear PPE, I wear rubber gloves, make sure it doesn't get on me. I'll cut out a cardboard chunk that I can wrap kind of in a cylinder around the plant that I'm spraying and take care of it that way so it doesn't get on other plants and it doesn't get on me. Got more hostas coming up. Is that a weed? I don't know. And then I do have some ferns over here that I'm pleased to see coming back. There are 3 Japanese painted ferns. This one's sprouting. We've got a fiddlehead over here. A couple more sprouting up over there. Another heucherella. Those 2 little poofy ferny plants are dwarf goat's beard. We did have some of the daffodils come up. These get a lot of shade, so I don't expect them to continue coming back reliably year after year. Here's another Japanese painted fern. And then this was, I'm guessing it's raspberry splash. This one was unlabeled. It was a lungwort that I found at Gerton's in the clearance section, sitting out bone dry in full blazing sun, wilting away. So I had to rescue it for $3 because I love lungwort. So I'm pleased to see the blooms. I believe it is raspberry splash. Some more hostas. There's big old burdock leaves. And then we've got Solomon's seal. I love Solomon's seal. This is a dwarf variegated variety. It very slowly kind of establishes a little patch. So I've just been planting another little, I'll wait till it goes on clearance and plant a little clump every year. We've got the I don't know how to say it, purple clematis there, growing up that trellis. And then the ground cover, there's orange and then this sort of purple and green. That is all 2 different kinds of ajuga. One is Feathered Friends. I think it was the Canary variety. And the other, I want to say it's like Bronze Glow or something. Beautiful ground cover. That'll bloom as well. I think it got pretty beat up this winter. It stays a little more evergreen when we have snow cover, but I think because we didn't have snow cover, it got a little beat up. Although I did put some shredded leaves over it, so that may have helped. This is a gem. I think it's the Red Dragon. Doesn't get a whole lot of sun over here. We'll see how it does. It's been in there a couple years now. And then another variegated Brunnera. Pretty little blue blooms. And 3 different Jacob's Ladder. Hopefully they will all bloom. That one is just chock full of buds, so I'm excited to see that. And then, let's see. Back behind the bench, we have another variegated Brunnera, and then a whole bunch of hostas that I planted late in the fall coming up. That I all bought on clearance, of course. And then I was worried, these were the Bobo hydrangeas that I transplanted in the fall. They are budding, sprouting buds all over. These were the 2 transplants. This one doesn't look as healthy, but I do see buds, so it did survive. So I'm just going to give them time. And then this one was newly planted in the fall, also budding up. That is why it is much smaller. So these 2, because they were more established, I call this a junction where one branch branches out into many. Oh, sorry, I wasn't showing you that. You've got one branch and then it splits. I don't know what it's actually called. I call it a junction. When I trim these back, I cut them back to the strongest junction on the branch. And that'll keep your hydrangeas from flopping. And it'll keep them branching out well every year as well. Because this one is new, it doesn't have a lot of junctions. It just had huge long stems. I think I may come and cut some of these longer stems even further back so that they stay really strong and grow thicker this year and branch out even more, because I want it to have a nice branching habit and a full shape. I've got all kinds of weeds coming up over here. This is a ground cover sedum. It's one of the rockin' sedums from Proven Winners. I don't remember the name. 2 orange geum over here. Those are just tough plants. Geum are really tough. We've got lots of grassy weeds. Another little patch of Solomon seal. This one, it stays very dry over here, and it gets a fair amount of sun, morning sun. So this patch hasn't established itself as well as in other areas. But it's still kicking. Solomon seal is really tough. Boy, I need to weed. And then we've got this Dicentra over here with blooms. Heuchera, that really looks bad. I need to trim that back, but it is sprouting new growth. The honeysuckle is really leafing out quite a bit. Oh, a bird actually built a nest in here, or at least attempted to. Oh yeah, they did. Oh wow, okay, well, we'll leave that alone. You can see where it's coming out. It has a big, huge hole in the bottom, so I didn't think a bird would actually build a nest in there, but evidently they managed. I don't hear anything, so we'll just leave it be. Ooh, that'd be fun to have baby birds. I've got 3 turtlehead or Chelone over here. These are the Hot Lips variety. I think I will plant another one. I dug out a ghost fern from this spot, kind of where these rocks are-ish, because it just got way too much sun. It just burned every summer. And then everything's so dry because these arbovita are so huge and they're very thirsty. So, okay, this is getting long. We got to hurry up here. Just show you the backyard, and then I'll do a separate video for the front yard later. A couple more hostas. There's another autumn frost in here. And these are the beautiful tulips. These have started to open. They were still budded up yesterday, but we've got this beautiful red. Or I'm mistaken, it doesn't turn orange. It's the yellow ones that start out kind of yellow and orange and then age more to an orange color. I got these in a mixed bag at Costco maybe 4 or 5 years ago, probably 5 years ago. And they just do great. This patch in particular has done really well naturalizing. We've got a ligularia that's called Desdemona back there. Got another hosta, a bunch of hostas. Got one down here. It looks like the rabbits have been maybe snacking on these a little bit, chewing off the tips of the leaves. Another one here coming up. And then this is another patch of the crocuses. You can see why this foliage just isn't unpleasant to look at. This is one heuchera called Fire Alarm. I had a whole patch of them in here, and they just kept dying out, except for that one. So I gave up replacing them, but that little teeny one just keeps kicking. So I just leave it be. We've got 2 ladies' mantle, and then the lamb's ear patch. And all of those, let's see, get back here a little bit. All of these purple plants are penstemon that have self-seeded from 2 parent plants that I had planted over here a number of years ago. So I let them do what they want. They're not invasive. They're easy to dig up. If they land somewhere I don't want them. Penstemon is a native, super drought tolerant. In fact, it really likes dry conditions, prefers dry conditions. So low maintenance, I love it. And then I have 2 kobold leotris back here. There's one there and one there. Those bloom, they tend to flop a little bit, so I do leave these cages up. And then this is a St. John's wort. That one's fairly new and still getting established. And we have the 9-bark, tiny wine 9-bark, mature size now, easily 5 feet tall and wide, probably more like 6 feet. I've got 2 hot pink phlox back there that tend to get powdery mildew really bad every year, and now they've been crowded out. They had space before this 9-bark matured, but now they get crowded out, so I'm going to either move those or give them away. And then this is another of the opening act phlox from Proven Winners. And these are called Zipper, these heuchera. And they have come back very reliably every year for me. And then we've got the Rockin' something sedum, an upright sedum from Proven Winners. Very dark purple foliage in the summer. So anyway, this is getting pretty long already. So I think I'll stop here and try and do a separate tour of the front yard garden. And then I can post a little update of my seedlings because they grew quite a bit while I was away on vacation. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Please subscribe.